Okay, systems of linear equations are equations that have two variables in them. And if I'm going to solve for two variables, I need two different equations. So the first method we're going to learn to solve these is substitution. And I'm going to take the second equation, I'm going to solve it for x in terms of y. So I'm going to subtract 5y from both sides, and then I'm going to divide by 2. And now I know what x is in terms of y. Now I'm going to take this, because it's equal to x, and I'm going to plug it into the other equation in place of x. So now the other equation becomes 6 times 2 minus 5/2 y plus 7y equals -4. You'll notice that what's happened now is I have one equation and it's in terms of one variable, in this case y. I'm going to distribute the 6. Okay, 2 goes into 6 3 times 5 is 15, plus 7y equals -4. Okay, minus 15y plus 7y is -8y. And let's subtract 12 from both sides. I'm going to get -16, so y equals +2. So I know what y is, but we're not done yet, because now I have to take this and put it in for y right there so I can figure out what x is. So x is going to equal 2 minus 5/2 times 2. We just figured out that's what y equals. So that's 2 minus 5, because the 2's cancel, and I get -3. So the solution to this system of equations is -3, 2. What does that mean? Well, these are linear equations, and if I graphed the lines, then this is the point where they would intersect. And as you can see, that's the case here. I've graphed these two lines, and here's one line coming down here. That's the 6x plus 7y equals -4. And here's the other line, the 2x plus 5y equals +4. And right there is the intersection point. That's what we figured out. The other method to solve linear equations, a system of linear equations that is called elimination. And that's where we try and get the coefficients of one of the variables to be opposites of each other, so that when we add the equations together, that variable is eliminated. Now you'll notice that I have a -8y in the first equation. I have a plus 4y in the second equation. So if I can make this be positive 8y, it'll cancel with that -8y. So I'm going to leave the first equation alone, and I'm going to multiply this by 2. Okay, and when I do that, you'll notice that when I add these equations together, the y's are going to drop out. So I get -7x plus 0 equals 14. So x equals -2. Okay, so I know what x is. To figure out what y is, I'm going to take that and I'm going to plug that in for x into either of the equations. I'll just plug it into the second one. Okay, so I've got -5 times -2 plus 4y equals 10. -10 plus 4y equals 10. 4y equals 20, so y equals 5. So the solution to the system is -2, 5. Whoops, I made a mistake, didn't I? That should be +10, which means that's going to equal 0. So let's correct that. 4y equals 0, so y equals 0. So the point is -2, 0. There, glad I caught that. Okay, let's solve this system. Let's use elimination. What do you say? Okay, so I'm going to leave the first equation alone, and I'm going to multiply the second equation by -2. Hey, look at this. I get 0 plus 0 equals 3. Well, that's an impossible situation, so that means that this system has no solution. What does that mean? Well, if we graphed these, we would get two lines that are parallel, and since parallel lines never intersect, they have no solution. And now let's apply the systems of linear equations to a word problem. So we have a situation where a plane flew 800 miles in 4 hours while flying with the wind, and when it flew against the wind, it took the plane 5 hours to travel 800 miles. Find the rate of the plane in calm air and the rate of the wind. Okay, so let's pick our variables. I'm going to let the rate of the plane be P, and I'm going to let the rate of the wind be W. Okay, so when the plane, well, first of all, remember that distance equals rate times time. That's the little equation we're going to use here, okay? So the plane with the wind, that's going to be P plus W, and it flew for 4 hours and it traveled 800 miles. And the plane against the wind, so P minus W, took 5 hours to travel the same distance. So when I divide both of these by 4, I get 200. And when I divide this by 5, I get 160. So we could do a substitution, couldn't we? P equals W plus 160. I'm going to put this W plus 160 in for P, so I get W plus 160 plus W equals 200. 2W plus 160 equals 200. 2W equals 40. W equals 20. So the wind is 20 miles per hour. Well, the plane is the rate of the wind plus 160, so the plane is 20 plus 160, which is 180 miles per hour. So the plane goes 180 and the wind goes 20.